You show up to the gym, look around. If you're not training harder than most of them, you're training like pussy. And that's a pussy cat. It's not derogatory towards women. Coach Greg, and today I'm responding to a video by Jeff Nippert. It's called, How Hard Should You Train to Build Muscle? I thought I already ended the controversy. Harder than friggin' last time. Everybody knows it. Even the slithery little snaky snake in the background knows you have to friggin' train harder than last time. But we're gonna go through 5 leading experts who are gonna explain how hard you should train. I wasn't included, not sure why, no idea. Because I'm not a doctor, I don't actually understand how hard you should train. So I'm gonna dumb down these individuals' explanations so everybody knows once and for all, how hard should you friggin' be training?
So in this video, I'm asking 5 highly qualified experts one of the most important questions in fitness. How hard should we train? So, Mike, I was going to pose you the question that I've been posing to everyone else. How hard is it that we should be training in the gym?
Okay.
And as per usual, Mike Israetel is completely bored and says, why am I being asked this question? This is below me. I'm a doctor. I already know more than everybody. I've already got this figured out. How often do I have to talk about IRR, deloads, reps in reserve, train a bit hard, don't train too hard, maybe take some time off, build up some reserve.
Are we recording yet?
Don't go too hard because then you need to back up. If you go to failure, well, it might hurt and you just don't want. And neurological failure, and more science, and so on. And this is Mike's summary. Well, it depends if you're in a mesocycle or a masocycle, and if you have a deload and your IRR and your RPE, and make sure it's within 3, but then you get down to 1, and should you go to failure? I'm not sure because, well, it depends, and there's some hypothetical benefits, but there's some hypothetical disbenefits. And if you go too hard, well, then you don't know how hard you go. Maybe you should get a pump. I'm not really sure if you should get a pump.
He emphasized that it ultimately depends on where you are in your training phase or mesocycle, where at the beginning of a 4 to 8 week training program, you should train less hard and with lower volume.
Well, if you're in the accumulation phase, you should get a little bit sore, but not too sore, and I don't really know. So in summary and conclusion, what does Mike say? Train harder than last time, then do a deload, and then train harder than last time.
So you don't want to start a 3 RIR and then end up at 4 RIR the next week and 5 reps in reserve the week after, because you're actually training easier and easier each week relative to your body's
The
capability.
dumbed down version of what Mike's saying is slowly train harder than last time, build up over a few weeks. Then when you get to the hard training, back off again, train easy, and then continuously train harder than last time. Train harder every week for a while, then stop and go easy, and then train harder every week for a while, go easy, and then continue to do that. That's Mike Israetel in a nutshell.
We can say you have to train hard enough to make gains, but not so hard that your next workout suffers and it becomes a situation where your next workout is unable to make you gains because you went too hard.
So you need to train hard enough to make gains, but not too hard that you can't train hard the next time, and then, yeah. No one knows what that means. No one knows what that is. IRR and RPE and train this way. It's science.
Do your next week 3 RIR, your next week 3 RIR, next week 3 RIR. That's a fine way to train.
IRR of 3, then 2, then 1 for this many weeks and not too hard, then back off.
But if your next week is 2 RIR and then the one after is 1 RIR and then the one after is 0 RIR, that's totally cool too. What you don't want is a situation in which you're not adding enough reps in load each week, and what ends up happening is your reps in reserve actually go up. So you don't want to start a 3 RIR and then end up at 4 RIR the next week and 5 reps in reserve the week after, because you're actually training.
If you want to do that, be my guest. 1% of you, that's going to be beneficial. But if you're like the rest of us, 99% of the world, you train freaking harder than last time. How simple can it be? Harder than last time. What did you do last time? Do it a bit harder.
So for Mike, how hard you should go mainly depends on where you are in your program. Next, I spoke with IFBB Pro John Meadows, and he really emphasized that how hard you should train mostly depends on how advanced you are.
And what does John Meadows say? Well, it basically depends how long you've been in the gym. Beginners, you just show up and you make gains. It's great, you're in the newbie phase. Then you become an intermediate, 1 to 3 years. Hey, now you got to train harder than freaking last time. You need to work harder. You need to go there, you work harder. What about advanced lifters like me? You need to go there and go harder than last time all the time. Do drop sets, triple drop sets, circuits, freaking go crazy. Do whatever you can do to go freaking hard. Doesn't matter what exercise, just pick one and freaking work on it.
It doesn't really matter what exercise it is, as long as it's one that you feel working well, and as long as you get good activation, good mechanical tension, and exhausting the muscle fibers. Like if you're doing those 3 things, what else are you going to do to make a muscle grow? Like that's what muscle growth is.
Show up and go as hard as you can. You're advanced. How are you going to make gains if you're an advanced lifter unless you go harder than last time? That's John Meadows. I agree.
Now, I also wanted to get a truly elite level athlete's viewpoint, so I spoke with 25-time world record holding powerlifter Dr. Stefi Cohen, and while she also continually emphasized how important individualization is, I think more than anyone else, she highlighted that if you want to be the best, you simply need to learn to push your limits.
One of the things I really like about this video is Jeff Nippard's ability to summarize unbiasedly. Is that a word? Is that a word? Is that a word?
Yes.
Summarize unbiasedly all 5 individuals' information. Really happy with how he did that. Not cherry picking, not saying this guy's smarter than that guy. He's just saying, hey, here's the information.
So from my own experience, what I've seen is that the best people in the game, like great accomplishments and great athletes, come from working obsessively. Like you don't achieve greatness from casual effort.
Stefi Cohen, nail on the friggin' head. I'm loving this description. I've already watched the video. Stefi Cohen was my favorite guest. She explained things in detail, saying, train harder. You need to push yourself close to your limits or at your limit. No, you can't always be doing that. You have to learn technique. You have to know what you're doing. But if you don't push yourself, if you don't try harder than last time, you're not going to achieve success. You're not going to be at your best.
You know, never once in my entire career did I come into the gym thinking about what's the least I can do to like get by.
25 world records. You gonna argue with this girl? She knows more than all of us. 25 world records. Obviously genetics. 25 records. I don't care how good your genetics are, how many PDs you take. If you don't train hard, you're not setting all those records. You're not going to achieve what this woman has achieved. It's incredible.
People rarely train hard enough.
How often have I been saying this? You show up to the gym, look around. If you're not training harder than most of them, you're training like pussy. And that's a pussy cat. It's not derogatory towards women. My freaking cats do not train hard at all. Not even baby Nikki. They're trained like pussies, means you sit around all day and you suntan. That's how hard they train. Don't train like a pussy. You're saying, oh, go to a commercial gym. You can't make gains at home. You need to go to a commercial. Oh, but I can't do circuits. Oh, if you do circuits, it's probably you need to rest this long. Oh, you need 12 reps. Is it 6 reps or 7 reps? What about if I did 20 reps? Oh, no, I didn't rest long enough. I rested too long. Oh, it's how much sweating I did. Oh, you didn't sweat enough. Oh, it's the warm up. It's a cool down. You need a massage. You need SARMs. You need steroids. No, train harder than last time. That is the message. Stop telling people 100 different things. The first thing you tell everyone, train harder than last time. Once they train harder than last time, everything else is going to fall into play. 95% of people will benefit from that information. So why are we worried about the 5% that don't need that information? Some people are already training harder than last time. They don't need to train harder than last time because they already are. If they say, I already am, I train harder than everyone. I'm in the gym all the time. I train so hard and I'm not making gains. Then you can start worrying about the other things like time under tension and all those other things.
And they're usually in what I call the 50% zone, where they don't take themselves to like, not failure, but like to an intensity that is actually challenging, ever, rarely. And then they don't rest when they're supposed to rest. So it's like you end up being in this 50% zone where you're always half-assing all of your workouts.
Exactly, you're half-assing your workouts. You're not going to failure. You're training half-ass. You're not resting long enough. You just go through and you're like, oh, I train really hard. I only rest 30 seconds between sets. Shut up. Train harder than last time. If you rest 5 minutes between sets and you train all out on each rep and each set, that is going to get you gains. You need to push yourself. Unless you're a beginner, you just show up. But after that phase, you need to start going harder than last time.
So next, I got Dr. Eric Helms on the line as someone who did his PhD dissertation on this exact topic. You want to be leaving some reps in the tank, speaking for hypertrophy now, so that you can accumulate more volume. Then you have other people saying, well, it actually works the other way. You need to go pretty hard and get close to failure, and it'd be worth it to slash some of those sets off if you're getting fatigued that way. Is there one that you put above the other?
I think it almost necessarily must be somewhere between those two extreme positions. And not just because I'm trying to be like the political guy who's like, the right and the left are both morons, I'm so smart. But it's more because if we think about what the actual adaptation we're trying to get is, it's the overlap of those two positions, right? If we ramp up the per set stimulus, we increase the total amount of recovery we need, and we necessarily either reduce the frequency, the volume, or we have lingering central fatigue on subsequent days because of high levels of muscle damage, which create a feedback loop, not allowing us to tap into some of those high threshold motor units, and we go to the gym and we just can't turn all the shit on.
So, expert Dr. Eric Helms, you know everything. What do you think? Should you go all out when you train and do fewer sets, or should you hold back some and do more volume? What do you think's better? I'm glad you asked. I'm the most knowledgeable human being in the world. I studied this so much, and everything I say is 100%. It's accurate. It's always correct. So this is what you need to do. It's almost always, sometimes, somewhere, something to do with somewhere in the middle. So I'm not sure. It's somewhere in the middle of the two. You can't train too hard, and you can't not train hard enough because you need the hypertrophy, and it's somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? It's somewhere in the middle. So when you think of the adaptations we're trying to make, it's the overlap of the two positions because, well, then the boxer, he was punching into top drunk, and then the div, because 40 and underscore slash backslash, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Is there one that you put above the other?
Well, the match lasted about up until the particular inaccuracy, particular unusually, that should be the ultimate determinant factor in about the 12-round experience, heart of a champion margarine hat.
Intensity, we reduce the volume, we get the subsequent resulting mismatch of what's happening because everyone doesn't know, and they're a moron, and it's left or right, not sure where it should be. And therefore, yeah. Thank you, Eric. And let's get into Greg Nuckols. Meanwhile, what Jeff Nippert is actually thinking, up next we have Greg Nuckols, who I wish would give a knuckle sandwich to Eric Helms after that boring scientific explanation that helped no one in any sense of that word understand anything.
And to put all of this together, I thought research reviewer Greg Nuckols had a really succinct way of summarizing pretty much everything we currently know about the in-the-trenches coaching stuff and also the scientific data. So I'm going to let his summary round out the video.
All right, so if I sound robotic, almost as if I'm reading off a script, that's because I am.
I am going to give you a succinct explanation of this question. Coach Greg's concise answer to how hard should you train? Harder than last time. Greg Nuckols' concise answer.
So it really depends on the lifter, the exercise, and training. I think your best bet is generally to be pretty close to failure muscles you're specifically trying to target. So, if rows become more recovered by near failure sets, etc. And then, like I said, the other factor, strength-based sets with 3+ reps in reserve, they can probably do way more sets than if they're doing hyper 4 days after a workout for the muscles you just trained.
Awesome.
I think
that was extremely succinct.
That is as succinct as I can get.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Awesome. That was extremely succinct. What? Oh, we can edit that out, right? Yeah, okay. Thank you. That was extremely succinct. Jeff is the best interview I've seen. He's so good at interviewing and being professional the entire time. Imagine if I had been the one interviewing Greg Nuckols. I'd been like, yo, could you just summarize that long, drawn-out explanation, which in fact was very detailed, well said. I'd have said, so yeah, could you tell the viewers what that means now? To summarize this question, if I had been asked, how hard should you train? So if Jeff had said, hey, Coach Greg, how hard do you think you should train? I would say, hey, look, most people don't train hard enough. So how hard should you train? You should train harder than last time. Well, what if you can't because you're training so hard and you're sore and everything's gone wrong and shit's gone sideways or downstairs or down south? Well, in that case, you go as hard as you can. It's not going to be as hard as it was last time because you just can. Whether it's neuromuscular fatigue, burnout, whatever, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if you matter.
Then the next time, you go harder than last time. If you have an off day in the gym, you feel like shit, not all days are great days in the gym. You can have off days. The next day, what do? You go harder than last time. After a really shitty day in the gym, very easy to then have a better day in the gym. You're not always going to make gains. You're not always going to go on the way up. You're not always going to be stronger than last time. You're not always going to feel better than last time. But what you can do is push the best that you can do on any given day. Don't worry about what you did last time. Do it better this time. Harder than last time. It applies to not only in the gym, it applies to everything in life. Your diet, your job, your girlfriend, boyfriend, circle friend, it doesn't friggin' matter. Always go harder than last time. Do better than you've done. Be the best you that you can be.
Next time on Coach Greg.
Join All About Allie. You get to find out what she thinks about Coach Greg behind the scenes when I'm not around.
If it's boobs, that means they're bigger than a single A.
See how confusing the world is?
Dave, I'm gonna get Allie's allies, all my subs, to, what is that called? 69 you?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.